For years, South Africans have been trying to deal with a mountain of magnetite at Palabora to turn that to account for the benefit of the iron industry. And now we have a company that's going to do that, Iron Mineral Beneficiation Services. And today we talk to the CEO of Iron Mineral Beneficiation Services, John Beecherhead. When can we expect the first commercial iron equivalent to come out of your research?
We're looking at the first half of next year. We start construction of our plant in the fourth quarter of this year. We hope to start commissioning in March, April next year, and to be in production by the end of June. The initial investment is 120 million rand, and this plant should make 50,000 tons per annum. Our process is modular, and that plant can grow to 500,000 tons. We are currently working on a modular plant in Canada which will grow to 2 million tons. We're working very closely with Palabora Mining, Rio Tinto, and we've come to agreement to construct the plant there. We should have the site available to us during September of this year. From a South African perspective, there's no doubt that once we have a lot of metallic iron available, we can create a whole steel industry, and we can create massive employment downstream from that. And we can do what everyone's desiring to do. Instead of selling iron ore, we can sell a highly valuable product. So effectively, if all iron ore that we made and produced in South Africa, at the moment some 35 million tons, was produced as metallic iron, it would change the face of what we do. Just from a pure flexibility of upturn and downturn, is the process that we have allows you to switch off modules. So in a traditional blast furnace type of operation, you go from 100 to 0 when you turn something off, where we go from, if we've got 20 units up, we can turn off 2, we can turn off 1, we can turn off 10. So the flexibility in production that we create will be great. The prototype that we're putting up at Palabora is going to be the defining plant that will determine exactly how far, how big, how quick we actually go. That's why it's so important to us.
How much energy is going to be required?
Roughly 2 megawatt hours per ton is needed to convert the iron ore into metallic, and luckily our process gives us more than that, as off gases from the CO gas from the reduction process and the volatile gas from the devolatilization process. If we end up with somewhere around a 33% energy recovery, we actually don't need any external energy other than the process equipment such as motors and conveyors, etc., to run the process with. We should be able to do most of the process with the energy that we produce. If you look at iron ore, I think market price is currently around the $160, $170 per ton, where scrap is currently around $430. You can afford a lot more on your logistics percentage-wise, also coupled with the fact that you're moving a lot more iron than you are when you're moving iron ore.
And what will you envisage? What do you envisage you'll sell your product at? What are you going to call it? What is your product called?
The name being bandied around at the moment is super scrap, because it's much more pure than actual scrap. There's a lot of trap elements in the scrap, and we're looking at that. And we want to go straight into scrap and sell at a competitive price to scrap. Iron scrap in China is over $500 a ton delivered. Ultimately, the dream is to change the way iron and steel is made. And I think with a partner like Severstal, there's no limit to what you can do. Steel consumption currently is about 1.3 billion tons a year. There's no reason that a product like this shouldn't be what's being transported around the world versus iron ore, where you're moving, and just to take the carbon footprint of a tanker, okay, where you're moving 1.5 times the iron at 3 times the value at 40% of the volume. You've definitely got something that helps everyone and helps everything and makes everything more sustainable and more efficient.
And do you think that this is a trend where we're going to enter into a new way of producing steel that will appeal to the steel makers who are really at the mercy of some of the big iron ore producers at the moment?
I think if more scrap was available or more metallic iron was available, there's no doubt that people would prefer to go down the electric arc route. Electric steel making is the preferred option. The availability of scrap is the dictator.
But if you're paying only $120 a ton for iron ore, and you're having to pay $400 a ton for scrap, why should they have this appetite for
your conversion is very simple. If you take for example, iron ore at $180 now, you need, say, 1.8 tons per 1 ton. Okay, so you're looking immediately there at $350 odd. You probably need 800 kilograms per ton of feed of coke. Okay, so there you already, your iron making costs are past your scrap price. So and it's just volumes and simplicity and flexibility. I think the future, it's a long future, 10, 15, 20 years, will be a lot more specific, smaller steel plants all over the world, closer to markets. You know, to move iron ore is simple because you can move it very easily in bulk. To move super scrap is easy because we can move it in bulk. But to move hot roll coil or to move car parts or body sheets in bulk is very, very difficult and very expensive logistically. So you'll get specific niche steel makers close to markets, but they need to have a bulk product that they can make their steel with readily available.
Could you give us an estimate of what the stockpile quantity is?
We estimate billions of tons of mined iron ore is out of the ground on the surface in stockpiles and slimes dams. Our 5-year vision is probably to have 1 million tons of production in South Africa, functioning and operational, with a plan for another 1 million. Okay. If we look internationally, we'd probably want to have at least a 2 million plant up in operation, going to 10. So that would be kind of what our goal is. So we want X amount in feasibility, X amount in production, X amount in construction in that period. And there's no shortage of opportunities available to us. We've just got to be thorough and careful of how we grow and how we plan to grow.
What about the Canadian plant?
As you know, Stockpile Resources are our partner in this business. They have taken on the role of deploying the technology worldwide, and through them we located a plant at a city called Sept-Îles in Quebec, and there 60 million tons of iron ore flows every year to the export market, and they also have the same desires as South Africa in that they want to further beneficiate and create value out of raw materials being exported.
And who's funding all this?
It's currently being funded by ourselves and the IDC. As part of the Stockpile transaction, funds were put aside to develop the first prototype, and the IDC has been great in coming forward and participating in this project. Obviously there's a huge initiative in South Africa for improving steelmaking and steelmaking costs, and we are part of this initiative.
And how did you stumble upon this?
A group of us are serial entrepreneurs and have been so for very many years. And we ended up owning the Ergo hematite dump. It's about a 3 to 4 million ton dump based on the Ergo site, which is primary iron oxide. All we were focused on was making iron out of our own resource, which was a very small resource. And then one day we went onto the internet and typed in superfine iron ore, and it was like hitting the lotto. If you look at the issues in steelmaking, there's about 6 core issues. One is the blast furnace is environmentally unfriendly, and also it is hugely expensive to put up a plant. Okay. Secondly, coking coal is a scarce and expensive resource, and it's causing lots of problem. And thirdly, the blast furnace pelletizing is a very expensive process of getting ore into the actual furnace. So coupled with high cost of shipping, the value of moving iron ore, which is 30% oxygen around the world, if you can eliminate these issues, you're going to come up with a much more viable product. And by accident more than anything else, the iron-based technology deals with all of these issues that are current steelmaking issues. I think everyone would prefer to go on an electric steelmaking route because the flexibility it gives you on shutdown, on the actual, you can start a plant with 50,000 tons versus 2 million tons, and you can still do 1.5 million ton plants as well. So the electric steelmaking is a huge future if we can get enough metallic product for the steelmaker.
And do you think you'll be able to get enough metallic product for the steelmaker, and how are you going to go about this?
Well, I think one of the reasons we chose Stockpile as a partner is they clearly understand the metallic iron market, and they clearly understand that the market for this is basically insatiable. So you can take, we could comfortably make 50 million tons of metallic iron product, and with metallic iron consumption being at 700, 800 million tons per annum, we're not even 10% of the marketplace. And there's very, very few people who actually are manufacturing metallic iron. So out of that 770 million consumption, 90% is recycled. And as you know, recycling takes place over 17 years. So the availability on the market is actually your steel consumption of 17 years ago.
And what is metallic iron, and how does it compare to iron ore, as we know, or scrap, as the electric arc furnaces have been accustomed to use?
Metallic iron is scrap. Scrap is metallic iron. There's two fundamental ways that you make steel. You make it either via the blast furnace route. That is where you put in iron ore, which is iron with its oxygen attached. And that goes through the complete integrated process till molten iron comes out of the blast furnace, goes into a basic oxygen furnace, is cleaned up, and then turned into steel. Or you take scrap iron, scrap steel, whatever you can get your hands on, and you put that into an electric furnace, and that makes steel. The immediate opportunity that we have, and it's already part of the current process going forward, is to put up a 500,000 ton plant in Palabora, and that hopefully could ultimately grow to 2 million tons, and that would make a significant enhancement to the South African steel industry, and would also probably make some product available for export.
And how will it enhance the South African steel industry?
The primary difference is it will enable a smaller steel maker to get into production. Okay, the biggest issue is your consistency of supply of scrap. Now, scrap is very volatile, and if a steel maker who wants to just make rebar, billet, for example, 50 or 100,000 tons, he has to be absolutely certain of his supply. This will give a lot of certainty to supply for a smaller guy who has a specific niche that he wants to produce. Also, with the desire of government to put up a large steel plant, if all is successful and we're fast enough, we could comfortably participate in that and supply the metallic iron to that project.
That was John Beachy, head of Iron Mineral Beneficiation Services, who is hoping to produce his first commercial iron from that magnetite dump in the first half of 2012.